welcome to the Kilo Talk podcast. I'm your host, Wesley McKnight, and I'm joined here with my co-host, Nick Sia. How you doing, buddy?
Not doing too bad, man. How are you?
Oh, not bad. Just trying to suffer through this corona, get training in here and there when I can and have access to some equipment. But other than that, pretty much just relaxing.
Yeah, I can't complain. I'm back home with my parents, so free food, and I really don't have to pay for anything, so I can't really complain about that.
Yeah, really can't beat that. So again, this is our first episode of the Kilo Talk podcast. Really just a podcast where we're generally going to talk about powerlifting, kind of what goes on with some of the big meets, some of the big lifters. We are going to have a little bit of emphasis on collegiate powerlifting, largely because we believe it's overlooked. And Nick and I both have experience within the collegiate side. We're both members and in officer positions of the West Virginia powerlifting team. So I think this gives us a unique opportunity to give some people some insight on kind of what goes on and inside the collegiate side, maybe keep it from being so overlooked. We will have some guest interviews, and really we're just going to talk about whatever the hell we want. So I don't know, Nick, is there anything else you want to chime in there?
Not really. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Wes was actually one of our founding members, so hats off to him for getting our club off the ground.
Yeah, so hopefully we can kind of bring some insight to you guys on what goes on and really maybe help out other powerlifting clubs with getting some more exposure to this. And we're hopefully have some other guest members from other clubs in and really talk about all the big collegiate meets and some of the collegiate athletes, what they're going through. So let's start out, Nick. Just kind of give us a little background about yourself. How did you get into powerlifting? First of all, what's your PR total? What weight class you compete in? Just give us a little bit of a rundown about yourself.
So yeah, just a brief overview. Like Wes said, my name is Nick. I am currently a 183 or 83 kilo lifter in the USAPL. I occasionally dabble in the 181 or 82.5 kilo in the USPA. Currently, my meet PRs is a 468 squat, 303 bench, and a 551 pull for a 1322.7 total PR. That was set this past December in Morgantown, West Virginia at 83 kilograms. Kind of a fun fact for that was I once decided to cut down to 74 kilos, losing about 30 pounds, 15 of which came in the last week, and I lost about 60 pounds off my total at that time and didn't even total 1,000 pounds. But overall, I've been a competitor for 2.5 years almost. As Wes said, I am an officer of the West Virginia University powerlifting team. I am currently the president and the former VP. But really during that time, a lot of my experience was focused on growing the club and just kind of showing people what powerlifting was all about and kind of ending the stigma that powerlifting was a really intimidating sport and all that, and getting it up to snuff with what a lot of collegiate programs are doing. I first got started in powerlifting kind of when I started lifting for wrestling in high school. I had wrestled for 7 years. And when I first started lifting with a bunch of my teammates, dudes were being dudes, and we just got really competitive of how much we were pushing weight. So that always kind of stayed with me. But when I came to college, I just started bro lifting and doing stuff for like aesthetics and just being more athletic. But I missed lifting really heavy. So I kind of just took a leap of faith and joined the WVU powerlifting team the fall of my junior year. And where I first competed in USPA Collegiate Nationals, where I first met Wes and a lot of our other teammates. And that was a really fun time and something that I'll always cherish because that's what first got me into powerlifting.
Yeah, definitely. It's awesome. Yeah, so a little background about myself. I compete mainly in the 220s to 198 weight class. Is kind of been back and forth over the past couple of years. My best total is 1278, and that was at 220 this past summer at the USPA, or past fall, I guess, USPA bar fight. So I've only been competing for about the same as Nick, 2.5 years. I am the vice president currently at the West Virginia Powerlifting Club. That's pretty much been my position for few years now, till the year that Nick had it. I was one of the founding members. So I've really been there through it all and kind of experienced it. When we first started the official club, we had 3 members, and now we're up to what, Nick, about 55 members now?
Yeah, we had about 55 members pay their dues this semester, and it's only going to grow, I feel like.
Yeah, so it's been awesome to be part of the growth of that. How I got started in powerlifting really started back in high school, where I would train at a place back in Parkersburg, West Virginia called Bench Press University. And really all we did was bench press. So it was mainly single ply, bench only competitors, but I did have the opportunity to train with some of the best in the world. So Dennis McLaughlin, J.W. Potts, J.R. Maloney, even Alan Beria, which does some full power. Josh Stottenmeyer trains up at Lexington right now. He's a multi-ply lifter. So I really had some good experience very early on. Really learned about kind of the intricacies of the sport and things that a lot of people don't get exposure to right away. My best single ply bench, I'm pretty sure it was probably about 18 years old. I was up over 400. I think I was like 420 some at 181 body weight in a single ply shirt. So really went a little overkill. We had our shirts all tailored and stuff. Then took a year off, went up to college, decided I want to do a little more drinking than I did lifting, and really didn't touch the weight room much at all. Then my good friend Matthew Maloney came up my sophomore year. That's someone we'd like to have on the podcast here in the future. He's been a big part of how the club kind of got started. Great lifter, and we decided to join the unofficial West Virginia Powerlifting Club, still continuing doing our bench only. We showed up the first day, and everyone looked at us funny when we threw these bench shirts on. They were all squatting in sleeves and whatnot, doing full power. So we quickly, that club kind of fell apart, but the next year we decided to go and do collegiate nationals. That's when I first got into full power, trained, and really just fell in love with it ever since. I've trained raw ever since that point, never really got back in any single ply at all since then. But definitely just still training as much as I can and excited to see what I can do in the future for sure.
Yeah, I remember my first team practice with Matt. I was just kind of hiding in the corner because I didn't really know anyone. Mm-hmm. And I decided to kind of just push myself a little bit that day to more or less kind of show off. So I remember squatting 315 for a really grindy double, feeling really proud of myself. And then as soon as I racked the weight and looked up, Matt was taking 405 to a one board for bench.
Oh yeah,
so I'm like, okay,
he's a beast, man. That's what I remember. My first full power meet, I think we were 3 months out from the meet itself, and I squatted for the first time really in like a powerlifting setting. And Dylan Jordan was there with me, and I decided I'm gonna do this collegiate national meet, and I'm pretty sure I squatted like 265, and that's not an exaggeration. And I don't even know if it was the depth. So a lot of learning has happened, and kind of just got to where I was at and where I'm at today. So it's been a cool experience to kind of grow with everyone for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. I really don't regret joining the team at all, and just getting to know everyone and growing myself as an athlete is a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I would like to throw out real quick. We talk a lot about the West Virginia Powerlifting. This podcast is not affiliated with the West Virginia Powerlifting Club. Actually, Nick and I are about to graduate in May, so we'll be kind of resigning from our positions. So anything that we say here can't be tied back to the club. I just want to throw that out there real quick.
But, not saying we're going to say anything super controversial, but it's been known to happen.
Yeah, you never know, man. So I think one of the first topics we really wanted to dive into today is, unless you've been living under the rock, I think at Rock, everyone knows about this COVID-19 situation we got currently going on. And it's pretty much just put a halt to powerlifting in general. A lot of people are not really training. The ones that are kind of rigged up some home gyms and like their backyard. I know I see Nick out there. Looks like he's in a cow pasture lifting weights. I don't know what's going on with that, but dive into a little bit what's going on. I don't know, Nick, if you want to kind of kick us off.
Yeah, sure. Like Wes said, this has just put the whole powerlifting world on halt, and it seems like it's affecting a lot of people. So I think it's pretty obvious now that a lot of people can't train in a normal setting, and a lot of them are just rigging up whatever they can to get some like tension and mechanical tension for their training. But I think the biggest thing that a lot of people are worried about right now is kind of the meet cancellations that are going on. So a lot of the big meets in the U.S., like the Kern, USPA drug tested nationals, and USAPL collegiate nationals, have been postponed to later in the year, as well as IPF Worlds. That's a little bit later than June, but it's also been postponed to the week before Raw Nationals, which leaves a lot of kind of elite level USAPL lifters to be kind of deciding to see where they want their best performances, because as many of you might know, that the US is incredibly competitive in powerlifting. So a lot of times they might just have to have their best performances at Raw Nats to even make it back to IPF Worlds.
Yeah, actually, I know you got a little more insight on that. How will that work with, I know the USAPL Raw Nats is, to my understanding, the only way to qualify for the IPF World. So how do they plan on doing the qualifying for 2021, I guess, for the IPF Worlds with the Raw Nats, or them being so close? Obviously, competitors aren't going to be able to compete a week away. Do you have any insight on how they're going to handle that?
I mean, nothing super like insider or anything like that. I've just been following a lot of people on Instagram, and they kind of just said like, yeah, we'll just have to put together what we can in a week out. And that kind of hits a lot of college lifters hard too, because USAPL Collegiate Nationals was recently canceled, and that kind of affected me personally because I was signed up to do that meet, but I didn't have any plans to do Raw Nationals and definitely not IPF Worlds. But now they're floating around December as a tentative date, and that whole Collegiate Nationals thing is just a whole can of worms we can dive into for a whole episode, but there's a lot of drama surrounding that right now.
Yeah, I tell you what, I just really don't understand that. I do believe it was kind of poorly handled. I do see kind of what USPA is doing with their tested nationals. It seems like they are being a lot more proactive on their approach. I understand it was a little bit later, but as far as setting a date, kind of, I know a lot of the USPA meets are offering refunds, like the local stuff, or not refunds, but moving to a different meet day. So I guess you're not leaving high and dry. I tell you what, though, I see this and I see how they keep postponing and pushing it back and farther and farther. And I think they're starting what could be a domino effect that will really hurt lifting for the next year to 2 years. I get why they want to have these meets and why they're postponing them. But if you look at things like the NCAA basketball tournaments and the NCAA college or baseball as a whole, they're just canceled for this year. And I almost wonder if that wouldn't be the right decision. I understand it's tough. I understand there's a lot of stuff involved, but if we keep pushing it back, you got to get into weird situations with qualifying totals and different things like that. So I wonder if that's not been an option that's been looked at, and why are they so scared to kind of not do that?
I mean, I'm sure they've really considered just outright canceling everything and kind of punting till next year. But I personally, I think the big issue is money. And we saw that happen last week where a lot of meets are just not giving refunds and saying, well, we said no refunds under any circumstances. And a lot of people are just coming for their heads now. I will agree and say Tested Nationals for USPA did a really good thing with being really proactive and postponing things. But kind of what I said about IPF Worlds and Raw Nats is that that's really close to the North American Championship for USPA. Yeah. So a lot of people that kind of put their time into peaking and prepping for Tested Nationals, and if they want to do Raw or North Americans, they will kind of have to turn around and prep again. Mm-hmm. And having done that myself, I can tell you it really, really sucks.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully, I hope we'll be competing again in the fall. I do believe we will, but you never know what could happen. It is some challenging times right now. And I mean, I do think all these meet directors, we do have to understand this is their livelihood. So a lot of ways they're just trying to do what's best. And I would hate to be in the situation they're in right now where maybe their livelihood might be taken away. So I do believe that they're going to their best ability to kind of make do with the situation and really just making some tough calls. So I don't know. I mean, there's different opinions on it. The USAPL Raw Nats or Collegiate Nationals to me really stands out to being the only one that I see meet-wise that might be a little bit of an issue. I don't know how well it was handled, but I do think they were kind of hit last minute. So I do give them the benefit of the doubt on that.
So I'd been kind of following the whole thing just because I was going to compete, and I was following the updates of the meet pretty closely, like checking my emails multiple times a day, checking the Facebook page just to see when it was going to get canceled. And to give a little bit of sympathy, I mean, this whole situation sucks, and there's really no other way to put it. And to take registration money and not blow it all, but just invest it into a huge meet, I can't remember what he said, but the meet director pretty much said like all new Alico equipment, had built new computers for live streaming, all that stuff. And you can't really, give that back or ask for a refund. So a lot of the assets that were put into this meet and that were collected aren't really liquid anymore. and they can't be liquidated. So when people kind of started coming for refunds, I was kind of along the thinking like, well, I mean, I'm out $120, but I mean, it's as much as we want to blame someone, it was just a really shitty situation for everyone to be in at the time. And I guess I cared a lot less because the school was paying for me to go there. So I'd get my money back regardless, but I can definitely see how that would piss a lot of people off.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me hear this. Are you planning on competing if they move it back to kind of late fall, or do you think you're just going to chalk this one up and maybe pick a different meet? What's your thoughts on that?
I've given it a lot of thought recently, and it's not set in stone yet, but I guess the date they're floating around right now is December 6th through the 8th, which is usually when I compete anyways. But so and that's like finals week for a lot of people. So I'm not sure if I'd want to, drive all the way to Pennsylvania when that weekend every year there's a meet about 20 minutes from my apartment. I don't think I'll be competing in this year's Collegiate Nationals because a lot of my pessimistic side tells me that it's just going to be outright canceled. But I mean, regardless of when the lockdown's lifted or anything, I'll still be working my way back to qualify for next year's event, which is actually already public. They requested to follow me on Instagram a few days ago, which I thought was kind of funny because in the middle of this whole, massive shit show, the other meet director is just kind of like, yeah, here, like we're going live 2021 Collegiate Nationals.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone's gotta make their money. And like I said, that's their livelihood, and that's what they gotta go with. I would kind of like to see probably. I still think it'd be better for them to cancel this one. Truthfully, I really do. And I understand you can't refund people, and it's the meet director's going to take a hit. But just like it is their livelihood, it still is a business. So I don't know what they could do with that. But I think that personally, I believe that'd be their best option for a lot of these meets this summer. If it gets to that point where where they have to cancel them because the lockdown's not lifted, I think that would be one of their better options personally. But I will see how it goes. It'll be interesting for sure. And here in the next few episodes, hopefully we have a little more insight on kind of what's going on with the meets and a little more on the future outlook. So kind of other than the meets, I mean, obviously people still trying to train. So I know we see a craziness about everyone kind of doing some outside workouts or some of their home gyms. I've seen racks made out of wood. What do you think about everything that's going on there? And how quick do you expect us to really get back in the gyms?
So, I mean, being a broke college kid myself and being friends with a bunch of other broke college kids, there's no way to get around it. And we're kind of in an ironic situation for our club because we own a bunch of kilo plates, competition bars, and a combo rack, but we just had nowhere to put it or no one's garage to go in. So I think when this whole thing happened, we just kind of said like, well, this sucks, but everyone's on their own. It's kind of encouraging to see everyone still training, but holy shit, a lot of the stuff people are making is just so unsafe.
Yeah, I tell you what, I saw Jordan's video today, him doing some sort of wooden bench set up with some bands wrapped around it. I'm like, man, you're putting more thought into this than me. And I have to be very honest, I haven't touched a barbell in 3 weeks. Good or bad, I'm healing up okay. I do think I've kind of worked out some options to maybe train some this week, but it is crazy to see some of the stuff, real death-defying racks and so on equipment-wise.
Yeah, I had a bench that went into like a Smith machine that you had to bolt it to, but since you can't use a Smith machine, I ended up kind of rigging something up with rope and some concrete blocks to keep it flat and everything, but something gave out in the middle of a set. I think I was benching like 215 for a set of 6, and it completely gave out, and mid-set it became a decline bench, and thank God I had the reflexes to, not let that weight decapitate me.
Yeah.
But what's kind of interesting is that people are still kind of sneaking into gyms, and gyms are still allowing people in. And a lot of them are getting exposed. I'm not sure if you follow the Instagram account Spaghetti and Sarms.
I do not know.
Okay, so that's a whole juicy thing because there's a gym in Philly that I can't remember what it's called, was allowing people in still and kind of making a quick buck out of it, charging $7 day passes and everything. And people were recording their sets in there and posting on Instagram. So when people found out that, Pennsylvania was under a stay-at-home order, like non-essential businesses were closed, people kind of caught on and put two and two together. And apparently the gym messaged people and said, yeah, delete these videos. And they launched this whole massive cover-up campaign. So that's that's serious. Like, holy crap,
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, I can speak from kind of personal experience. I do have multiple gyms I could go to right now. I will say that. Now that's part of me having really good connections, but I'm not talking just private gyms. I have a few of those too, but I do have a couple offers where I could go to a gym right now privately and work out, but they're public gyms. I don't really know how I feel about that. I have not taken up that offer because truthfully, I do understand this is a big deal. I don't really want to, I'm still working. I don't want to be going spreading germs to people or the virus or whatnot. Like I said, I might try to train some this week with someone I know that has been quarantined that has their own personal home gym. I think that's a little bit of a different situation. But yeah, I couldn't imagine these guys are going. Most of these gyms, I understand they're hardly making it. That's part of the reason why a lot of them are doing this. But they could get hit with some very big fines still trying to sneak this under the table. So we'll see. I think a lot more is probably going to come. Like I said, I know multiple gyms right now that are doing what you're saying and kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I like, to be honest, I get it. Gyms are notoriously just really hard to be successful with, but you got to think about all the other small businesses that are shut down too, and really might not make it out of this lockdown. I've seen on Facebook Marketplace that people are just straight up selling parts of their gym just to keep the lights on while this lockdown happens.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, I think that's a good segue to our next kind of segment is how is this going to affect the sport as a whole? And I'm not talking about the next 3 months. I'm just talking what's our 5-year outlook here? Because I know it's a sport, especially in the raw full power division, it's just been growing like crazy year after year after year. But I can't imagine this doesn't have some very negative effects on the sport. Participation wise, gym wise, just as a whole. So what's kind of your thought process on that?
I mean, I think so. Once lockdown is lifted, one or two things is going to happen to the whole gym industry, and a lot of people have just shelled out a lot of money to start their own home gyms. I mean, I personally know someone that dropped money on a whole setup, like bars, calibrated plates, squat rack, bench, like anything they can get their hands on, and they spent a pretty hefty chunk of change on that. So my whole kind of question and I'd really like to see how this pans out is will gyms lose businesses because a lot of people converted into home gyms? Or in a few months, will we see a huge influx of pretty much brand new equipment on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, all that kind of stuff for dirt cheap because people want to go back to gyms and they just kind of bought, rogue racks and all that stuff just for a temporary holdover?
Yeah, I tell you what, Nick, I do believe that's probably going to be the case. I think there's going to be multiple gyms here in the next year to 2 years that are really going to be hurting. And really because, I mean, I personally have been looking at equipment as well. Like, it's kind of put me in a weird situation. It's like, man, I'd really like to have my own home gym. One, I just think it'd be better for my training. And also just if something like this were to happen again. But just to throw that completely out of the picture, just the financial aspect. I mean, gyms are expensive. I know we're very thankful to be working with Pro Performance. That helps us because we're college kids with our club. But if not, you're looking at anywhere from $40 to $80 just for a gym membership at a lot of these big powerlifting gyms. There's no way that's sustainable. I mean, we've seen the unemployment rate skyrocket. I know many people that I'm good friends with that are just out of jobs right now, people that I train with in my hometown. So I think that also is going to take a huge impact, a huge hit. And I definitely think we've kind of just, these gyms have oversaturated for not just powerlifting, but just general fitness and bodybuilding itself. And I don't see how that's very sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like a case study here was like a gym back home that I go to over breaks and stuff. I kind of sat down one day because I was thinking I wonder how they're surviving this. So I kind of just went through best guess, kind of determined how much rent they're paying each month with utilities and everything. And they're paying upwards of 10 grand. It's a giant gym and I don't see a lot of members in there and they charge me $40 a month for memberships. if they were barely making money now, and a lot of their members kind of went off and were serious about training, because there's a lot of like top ranked power lifters in there, like what the hell's going to happen after that?
Yeah.
They're going to lose so much money and everything. And even as a sport as a whole, I mean, I watched a video that Joey Flex put out a few weeks ago that kind of talked about, what's really going to happen. And the biggest thing he addressed in that video was like, a lot of people aren't working out right now. A lot of people don't have gyms. A lot of people just don't have money to drop on competition grade equipment, which is totally understandable. But he really did say, it's like, you gotta face the reality here. You're gonna lose strength. You're gonna get weaker. That doesn't mean it's not gonna come back, but you're just gonna have to work harder than everyone else to get it back. And while people who can't afford that, or big name power lifters who already had that equipment on their own, they're still going to be getting ahead. And Johnny Candido also said that at nationals, there's likely going to be a big drop off in totals after like the top 15, which I thought was really interesting, because it's kind of seeing, how bad do you want it? Yeah. But at a certain point too, I mean, like, this lockdown is going to take a toll on people, like mentally, physically, and everything. It just might straight up cause them to quit, which Joey did address in his video. But I mean, like, I know, like right now, I have equipment to train with. It's not the best, and it's certainly not ideal, and I don't have enough weight and all that stuff. But bottom line is, I have weights, and it's still hard to get like motivated to still work out and everything. And with lockdown, people are just exploring different hobbies and avenues of ways to take their lives now. So I really wouldn't be surprised if we started to see a little bit of a drop off with the growth of powerlifting. I still think it'll grow, but it's tough for people out there, man.
Yeah, I tell you what, Nick, I mean, I would not be surprised to see a 25% drop off in this next year. I really would not. And I hope not. I want to see the sport keep growing, because it's a great sport I've been involved with for years. But I just think this is going to be in general a tough time. And it really worries me. You talk about gyms being oversaturated. What about these federations? I mean, there's millions of them at this point, it seems like. And even a lot of your big federations, there's multiple meet directors in every state. And it's just, you wonder if some of them aren't going to maybe hanging up and thinking this might happen, like looking towards the future. So that also worries me a little bit. But a lot of what you're saying about the gap at nationals, neither USPA or USAPL, I do believe that's going to be true. You see how many top level athletes have you seen not training at all on Instagram? Not very many of them. I mean, I at least haven't. I don't know about you. So I still think the top level guys, they still are having access to equipment, or they still might be sneaking in a gym. Maybe they're not posting pictures. So it's like that skill gap is just going to keep increasing. So especially, I think you'll see it a lot in the tested side of powerlifting. Untested, I know a lot of these guys, I mean, they just need a good cycle to get, or a big cycle to get on. They might get back to where they're at after not training for 3 months. That happens sometimes. But as far as tested powerlifting, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I mean, it is that for everyone. But I definitely think you're going to see, especially that middle ground and below, average lifter to below, kind of drop off to what we might consider to be elite.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I mean, realistically, there's a lot of people that were on the cusp of being elite, and this was kind of their time, and training was going really well for them. And all they needed to do was string together a few more good blocks until they kind of broke that barrier. And now it was just kind of taken away from them. I mean, it wasn't really like, it's not their fault at all. It's just a shitty situation,
Yeah. Yep. Truly. I mean, but truly, we just want to see everyone healthy. So, I mean, if everyone says if we can get this virus out of here quickly, I guess everyone get back to training and kind of start to get back to where they were at again, for sure.
I mean, for the sake of my own sanity, I'm a little bit optimistic of when things are going to open back up. I know there's a lot of discussion going on right now that it's going to open up in like 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. I still think that's too soon for a nationwide like kind of reopening.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I'm in the middle of like buttfuck nowhere, Missouri. We don't, like, I think within a 10-mile radius, we have like one COVID-19 case, and that wasn't even like a true positive. The test came back inconclusive, and they just said like, oh, let's just treat it like a positive just to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, I think we'll see a lot of like the Great Plains open up first because I mean the population density isn't so high, and quite frankly, we just don't have that many cases compared to like the Northeast. But Governor Abbott in Texas is supposed to reveal like a whole executive order next week and sign one into effect that pretty much details when things can open up again. So I think that'd be really interesting because obviously Texas is a really big state. I wouldn't say they've been hit hard, but like more urban populations like Houston have been hit pretty darn hard. So I'd be curious to see kind of where, and kind of interest for this whole podcast, like where do gyms fall in that? You know, which businesses do you open up first, and you know, do gyms fall anywhere into that?
Yeah, I agree, and that's definitely something we can kind of stay in tune with or look at here in the next few episodes. I mean, obviously, we're going to try to put out a podcast weekly at this point, and so every week we should have a little bit of a greater insight on kind of what's going to happen. And really, it's just taking it day by day right now. I mean, I'm with you, Nick. I'm very optimistic that I think 2 weeks is probably a little early. But I do believe that mid-May we are going to be people are going to start going back to work and things are going to start to open up. Now the flip side to that is how much of a toll has this already taken on our economy. So there might be a chance that it might be a little too late, and like we were saying, we're still going to have this drop off of lifters that maybe either can't afford a gym membership, maybe the skill gap was too much for them, and they're just like, hey, I'm going to pick something else as a hobby. I pursued this for 6 months to have my meet canceled. Now I'm not happy. So I still think it could have an effect. But truthfully, the quicker we can get open up and more people can get back excited about powerlifting, we can keep growing the sport, getting meets rolling again. And we'll definitely be able to kind of monitor that for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, if you've been following the news, like it's a situation that's so rapidly evolving. I mean, 2 weeks ago, they're saying, oh, millions could die. Then 2 weeks ago, it's like, okay, not millions, but 100,000 to 240.
Mm-hmm.
But then this week, with everything that's been going on, and this is not a bad thing at all. Like it really just speaks to how well everything's been working so far.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like right now, I mean, our peak amount of death is around 60,000, and
yeah.
Sorry,
we're both math guys, and we're both engineers, and we can kind of understand how that works. They might produce this model to make this projection, but as the more of the data comes in, they can kind of adjust that. So I mean, I think it's a good thing that we're having a little bit of a drop. I know some people have been a little critical of that in the news, but I mean, I completely understand it for sure.
I mean, a model is as good as the people that create it, and I would trust someone that works like closely with this kind of stuff and has experience with it than like a newscaster or really any person like producing an opinion piece. And that's just kind of coming down to you trust the scientists that have seen this and have studied this.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. So I don't know, is there anything else you want to touch on for this podcast or episode? Do you kind of just want to wrap it up? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think I got everything I needed, or not needed, but I think I got everything I wanted to say out. I just hope that we continue to save lives, but at the same time, I hope we reopen up soon and we get to see, or we get to do the things we love again.
Yeah, definitely. And I tell you what, guys, we're going to continue to kind of monitor the corona, but also work some different things in. We got some exciting ideas. We're not going to just talk about corona every episode, even though it's kind of powerlifting's on halt right now. We do have some ideas here in the future to kind of dive more into some powerlifting things that we think would be cool to talk about. And then also we do have some guests that we're already planning. So just come back for the next episode. Hopefully we can bring you guys some entertainment. I can't really tell you where to find this podcast yet. We're still working on that, but hopefully next time we'll kind of be able to tell you that. But if when you see it, subscribe. Hopefully we can keep bringing out some more good information for you guys.
Well, we don't know where to find the podcast yet, but Wes, where can we find you?
Honestly, I'd have to look. You can find my Instagram at McKnight7. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram too. A little bit of a more creative name than Wes, but you can find me at notasquid99.
Yeah, and also follow our Instagram we've made for this podcast. We'll continue to post updates as we come out with different episodes. And also, hopefully, we can have the opportunity to get some listeners involved with maybe some questions or whatnot here in the future. So all that for right now will go through the Instagram, and we keep everyone posted on what's going on. And that is at Kilo Talk Podcast. That is correct, right, Nick?
Yeah, let me double check that. I'm pretty sure it's correct. I made the Instagram, I should know, but yes, at Kilo Talk Podcast.
Yeah, and we'll get better as we go, guys. This is our first podcast, so hopefully we can just bring some interesting information and give you guys something interesting to listen to. So I think that's about it. Thank you guys all for listening, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.